You are ticked that LeBron's not going to make the playoffs, and you want Luke Walton out. I'm reading telepathically your mind this morning. Is that what you think?
Well, the Lakers are going to make the playoffs, but I would ask you this, Colin. Let me just put it on you for a moment.
All right.
What does Luke Walton do well?
What
does he do well?
I would say he has patience. I don't like his random substitution patterns, but I would say he is generally patient with young players, and he's a player's coach. How's that?
Okay, so I'll kind of give you that. Here's my evaluation of Luke Walton. On the tangible, when you say you don't like his rotations, you mean the random, haphazard, we're going to protect LeBron's minutes until after the injury, when then we are not going to protect the minutes, which makes no sense. Or that Mike Muscala in his first game gets 15 minutes and in his second game is a DNP coach's decision. Or the fact that they haven't had one unique or creative out-of-bounds play all year long. Or the intangible, like player development. D'Angelo Russell looks like a nice player once he leaves the Lakers. Julius Randle gets better once he leaves the Lakers. Ingram and Lonzo are stuck in neutral. And then there's this. Sometimes there needs to be a casualty, even if it's not totally his fault. Does anyone think Luke Walton is going to be the head coach of the Lakers at the end of next season? Does anyone think Luke Walton's going to be the head coach of the Lakers if and when they get to an NBA Finals? So make the move now. You have Brian Shaw on the bench, and see if you acquire the same thing the Cavs acquired at the trade deadline last year, which was the most valuable thing in the sport, a reinvigorated LeBron James, because that's the only path to this season being a success. And I just don't think Luke's very good, and I haven't heard anyone make the case as to what he's very good at. And one last thing, if he gets fired, what's his next job? It's not NBA head coach, I promise you that.
Well, let's go to Brad Stevens, who everybody tells me is a great coach, but it appears he's better with Butler and young players than the best player, Kyrie Irving, he's ever had. So let's look at the Boston situation, which I always felt was sort of the, rebuilding for dummies hand guide, right? That this is how you do it. Now Kyrie's hurt again, doesn't appear to fit Stevens. Gordon Hayward's played well last couple of nights, but has regressed as a player. Anthony Davis, I'm told last week, doesn't want to be a Celtic. So what do you make of Brad Stevens? Maybe he doesn't work with stars. Maybe stars are hard to coach.
Yeah, I think Brad Stevens is an excellent coach, but I also think what you are seeing is when you have a coach whose biggest utility is turning average players into well above average players and making above average players perform like semi-stars, that you don't get the boost that you typically would get when you infuse your team with star power. And Brad Stevens last year, the team was a lot like the Butler team. Young guys of, moderate talent given their circumstances, who you can get the most out of. So I might have been, last year I was telling anyone that would listen, Brad Stevens is the best coach in the league, not named Greg Popovich. I maybe need to back off that just a bit, because this next iteration of coaching with the best players, he hasn't shown the ability to be Carlisle, to be Popovich, to be Spoelstra, and that's the next step for him.
By the way, Russell Westbrook, I call him Russ, we're tight. First 9 years in the league, he was not only a good free throw shooter, he was in the 80s, and that's elite. Not a lot of good players have not been in the 80s. He now is at 64%, but he contends. I do not hear my critics. I play one way, and I contend, oh, no, you don't. You're a lot like Dennis Rodman. You have a body armor, and you're physically imposing, but deep down you're vulnerable. And Russell Westbrook, his shot is broken because he absolutely, Kevin Durant admits he hears the noise. Westbrook doesn't admit it, but the data shows me he hears the noise. Can we acknowledge, and you love Russ, that the people are getting to him? His shot's broken. That's mental. That's not physical.
Hold on. Listen, and you know how much I love and respect you. I don't understand the logic point you're drawing here. Like, his shot is absolutely broken. His MVP year, 35% from three, 85% from the line. Last year, 29 and 75. This year, 25 and 65. But the correlation of it's not like he is more criticized now than previously. It's not like he's become more of a firebrand. You've been hitting him in the head for 5 years. Like, I don't know why this is the year it all of a sudden got to him. Now, I don't believe him that he doesn't hear the noise. I think he uses the noise as fuel. But I don't think it has anything to do with his shot being broken. I think his shot's just broken. And the free throw thing, he used to, after every free throw, walk back to midcourt and then walk back to the line. The NBA doesn't let him do it anymore. It threw off his routine, and somehow it's wrecked his free throws. I don't know why that's the case, but that's the case. I think that has more to do with it than the commentary of people who don't love watching, the guy who tries the hardest of every player in the league, Russell Westbrook.
A lot of guys try to do radio hard, but you're good because you're good at it. I'm not into trying hard. That means nothing for me. By the way, Paul George, the best available two-way player in the league. Yes, he's scoring, but he's efficient. And he's made the rigid Westbrook a different player late in games. Russell is now a distributor later in games. And you would acknowledge he can be a little rigid. To me, Paul George is going to win 59 games, home court. I think he's the MVP. Where do you put him?
Okay, I love Paul George. I'm so happy for Paul George. Once upon a time, Paul George went eye-to-eye with LeBron in a conference finals when he was 23 years old, and then again when he was 24 years old. He looked like the next superstar in this league. Then he shattered his leg. And to see him get now to this level makes me so happy. But your MVP conversation is insanity. First of all, the best two-way player in the league is Giannis Antetokounmpo. He has the number one defense in the league. He's a better offensive player and right now a better defensive player than Paul George. That's first of all. Second of all, Harden. While I would have Giannis number one, we cannot ignore this fact. Harden's not putting up empty numbers. Since this streak started, the Rockets are top 5 in the NBA in wins. He's averaging 37 a game. And by the way, top 3 in the league in deflections, top 3 in the league in steals, top 3 amongst guards and blocks. His defense is no longer bad. It's not Giannis and Paul George level defense, but because winning matters, I understand elevating Paul George. Where there's your MVP list, and you can really end it, or my MVP list. If you want to end it after 3, that's fine. Giannis, to me, has overtaken Harden. They have the best record in the league, the number one defense, and his numbers are comical. And the idea that you think he's not a late game threat because he can't shoot threes, you don't have to shoot threes when you have go-go gadget arms and you can get to the rim from the three-point line in one dribble. And so Paul George is having a spectacular year, but it does, in Harden's defense, who you're killing, he has scored 30 in 31 straight games. 30 in 31 straight games. There are only 14 guys in the league that have scored 10 in 30 straight games. Only 14 guys have double digits in 30 straight. He's got 30 in 30 straight. We can't discount what he's doing.
Yeah, I'm not killing Harden. I'm just not, to me, I've seen January, early February fireworks shows, and then I see said guard exhausted by the end of the first round, so I'm not into that stuff. I think what's happening in Oklahoma City, Paul George staying, changing Westbrook, I just think it's a remarkable story. That's what I think. Paul
Agreed.
George.
I know, I agree. And I'm so happy. Listen, Paul George is going to get first-team All-NBA at the forward spot, maybe Defensive Player of the Year, probably going to be top 3 there, and top 3 MVP candidate. That's a great season. But the best player right now, given LeBron's injury this season, is Giannis. And Giannis, I know it's in obscurity in Milwaukee. They've got the best record. His stats are undeniable. Number one defense in the league, and he's the best defender. Like, if we're going to go the two-way player thing, we can't forget about the Greek kid up in Milwaukee.
All right, I got to go. I don't have time for the Joe Flacco stuff. I know you thought it was a disastrous trade, but I have...
he's terrible. He's a bad player. He's a bad football player, but he's tall. He is tall.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.